So now I'll talk about some crazy development I tried to do. Can you still get this? Okay, this is over now. Yeah. So I wanted to make a helicopter based on the same principle as a powered hang glider, except replacing the wing with a contra-rotating rotor. As you can see that this is very similar to the trike which you have seen familiar with now, engine and tailwheel. But we put a contra-rotating rotor with two rotors spinning in the opposite direction. So I knew this was a very risky kind of development, and I'm not at all sure it will ever fly. But in principle, it looked that it should work and be very much cheaper than a regular helicopter, for the simple reason that all the steering is done by weight shift. That is the weight of the pilot moving with respect to the rotors, and there are no complicated mechanisms like swash plates, which really make a helicopter much more complicated to learn and to maintain and to fly. So roughly, if you see the expense of maintaining a helicopter and a fixed wing, it's about 3 times. Everything is about, I don't know, Kamala Upadhyay will agree that it is at least 3 times or more. And it's a very unforgiving aircraft. It doesn't want to fly, you have to make it fly. So, whereas a winged aircraft will fly quite happily without doing anything. So with all these limitations, I started this activity and spent about 12 years of my life. And I think it was just a partial success. And now I'll show you okay, but I told Ania that if you, I think you get a test pilot who's going to fly this, and otherwise I'll have to fly it myself. And I approached several test pilots, and they said, "Oh, idea is very good, but not for me." So I said, if I have to fly this, I have to learn to fly a regular helicopter, and it was agreed to. And I took flying lessons in HAL's helicopter flying school, which was initiated by Wing Commander Upadhyay. And my student pilot license was 001. So Wing Commander Upadhyay tried to teach me in this 2-seater little bubble kind of thing with the rotor. And I can tell you that it's one of the most difficult things to learn to fly. Once you know how to fly, okay, it's not so bad. But balancing and getting a hover is a very nerve-wracking time, both for the student and for the instructor. And I could see him, getting into all kinds of situations, but he couldn't express his feeling because he is my sabandi. But one day I learned to fly, and so I'm ever grateful to him. And this was a piston engine aircraft, the next slide. So we also got trained in the turbine-driven aircraft. This shows our instructor and Mr. Thomas and myself. Thomas, has he gone? No, okay, sorry. So after getting enough flying experience in this, I continued with my project. And the next video, in fact, summarizes so what I developed finally after about 12 years of struggling with it. No, okay, I think I'll just explain the slide first, and then you can switch on the video. So as you can see, this is what I came up with. So this is the engine, and this drives through a gearbox, the contra-rotating rotors, and this is the main tail main for controlling the yaw. And the simplification here is that you don't have the system of swash plates, and it's just the movement of the pilot like in a power diagram. So the next video will show some of the efforts. Okay, it's just a slide, I think. The video will start by itself. Oh, exactly. I can't hear the sound. Can you?
The Helitrike has an upper section containing the rotors, the gearbox, the engine and the tail vane. The lower section, which houses the pilot and the skid, is suspended from the top section at the hang point. The Helitrike has two contra-rotating coaxial rotors of 14 feet diameter. The rotors are of the underslung teetering type and are driven through a bevel gearbox and a 65 horsepower engine. The empty weight of the Helitrike is about 195 kilograms. There is provision for corrective adjustment of the blade pitch, but unlike conventional helicopters, there is no cyclic pitch control. The motion of the Helitrike is controlled by the pilot's action on the control bar. Pitching is effected through forward-backward movement and roll through lateral movement. Yaw control is through foot-operated pedals, which move the vanes on the tail boom. Presently, the rotor lift is controlled through the rotor speed, but subsequently it will be through collective pitch control. Flight testing of a new, untested, unconventional design of a single-seat helicopter is no doubt a challenging proposition. We found test pilots of conventional helicopters hesitant to take up flying the Helitrike. So we have tried to devise a low-risk route. Initial tests with the prototype, restricted with several cables, proved to be disastrous. We soon learned that a helicopter does not like to be tethered. At most, we found that a short single tether, which permits a lift of about 4 inches from the ground, is safe and gives some feel for practicing the initial bow, which is the crux of all helicopter flying training. The video shows tethered tests in progress and are quite useful for giving practice to the pilot. However, with such a short tether, it is impossible to achieve a steady hover. Platform on caster wheels to which the Helitrike was tethered. This gave the pilot a chance to get a feel for the control movement in a relatively safe manner. However, the inertia of the platform meant that the system was too sluggish to simulate free-flight conditions. After sufficient practice with tethered tests and moving platform, untethered tests were attempted in an open field under calm weather conditions. Rotor lift was gradually increased by increasing the engine speed. At a rotor speed of about 700 RPM, the lift was sufficient to lift the top section and the controls felt light. Around 800 RPM, the whole aircraft lifts and can be controlled by the control bar and pedals. As the video shows, it was possible to get fairly controlled movements in the desired direction, close to the ground. Hover was possible for short periods of time, but the movements were quite sensitive and twitchy. Hence, lifting of the craft to a higher position was not attempted. In fact, during one of the sliding maneuvers, the skip touched the ground and resulted in a tip over which damaged the rotors. The present status is that the prototype has been rebuilt after the incident. A flybar stabilizer unit has been designed and fabricated for improving the stability of the top rotor. Next, we are looking for a simple experimental way to assess the stability of the craft. The use of high-speed photography to determine the time lag between the rotor tip plane and the rotor shaft appears to be a promising one, as will be explained in the model studies in the present video. This will give us some confidence to undertake further flight testing of the prototype. Thank you.
So that brings us to the conclusion. Last slide, please. Yeah. So a few concluding remarks. That's how I spent 7 years of my life. This is only a sort of side assignment to what my regular work was, but I enjoyed it more. Aerosports in India at that time was on its way up, and we had fairly good participation, as you saw, and in the jamborees and this thing. So, considering that our prosperity has increased since those days, one would have hoped that this activity would have taken off, and we would have had a lot more such activities, which, by the way, helps in career building and character building, because once you're up there, it's just between you and the machine, and that brings a lot of confidence. Apart from enjoying all the scenery and all that, and there is a certain amount of tension, and people who do it really benefit from it. But the story is unfortunately not a very rosy one, because for various reasons which I don't want to go in at this point, I think the flying activity has, or let me put it, the legal flying activity has not taken off as much as expected. People are still flying. The Army, Navy, and Air Force people, they have their own rules, and they are doing, each one has an adventure wing. They are flying quite happily. But it's the civil sector where there are a lot of impediments. One of the major things is the security aspect, because people think that with these small, slow-speed aircraft, you can go and do terrorist activities. So that has been a big kind of, well, I would say it's negligible, but it is an issue, but it can be easily solved. Anyway, so I don't want to get into all that. But the fact is that this activity hasn't taken off to the level that we expected. So I would request Mr. Jawad to say a couple of words on the present situation, because he has been in this game for a very long, long time, and one of the few who is still continuing. So just 2 minutes, you could say a few words.
Good evening, everybody. Yeah. So in the 90s, there were more people flying hang gliders, powered hang gliders, microlites than today, mainly due to restrictions from Ministry of Home Affairs and DGCA. They think it's a dangerous sport and these equipment can be used for anti-national activities. So since 2008, there's been a steady decline in the number of people getting into the sport. Having said that, now in the past couple of weeks and months, we see the government's perspective has changed. They're coming up with a national aerosport policy where they want to encourage aerosports and get more people into the activity. We hope things look up and see more people getting into the air. So that's what it is now. But coming to Jaipur, the government is looking at trying to shut that down. And
Shifting to Mysore, I think.
Sorry?
Shifting to Mysore.
That might not happen. It's all too complicated. Too many political and land grabbing people involved. So we really don't know what the future is in Bangalore, but overall things might look up in the nation where people get into aerosports with the new government policies. So do get in touch if you want any more information. Always happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
About your Helitrike, whether you've managed to simulate it and have a digital simulation to check on its.
That's a very good question, but it's a very difficult one to answer because, as some of you know, to do all that kind of thing, you have to know the dynamics in a mathematical model. So such models for this type of aircraft simply do not exist. They exist only for the fixed wing aircraft and the regular type of helicopters. So that I've asked many helicopter experts, theoretical guys. They said it's far too complex. You have to learn it the hard way. So that's what it is. So the way it's going forward is that instead of powered flight, we can go for UAV type of aircraft. So you fly a UAV and if it crashes, okay, it doesn't matter.
Unmanned.
Sorry?
U means unmanned, isn't it?
Unmanned,
Okay.
yes, unmanned. So you take the pilot out of the system. But I couldn't get funding for doing that work. So now I'm trying to make drones which will use similar principles. Not that, but I don't want to get into that, that's a separate subject. Where we learn through experiments and try to make new type of drone, which I've been working for the last 6 years now. And I just got a patent for it, but now I don't think whether I can finish it myself. But if some drone manufacturer is interested, I'll be happy to talk to them.
Mr. Prasanna,
Yes.
please stand up.
So during your time, how many women were interested in getting into this?
How many women? Oh, that's an interesting question. In NAL, surprisingly, I had quite a few lady pilots, lady staff members who would come for the flying, and but none of them came up to the solo stage. But I think about 2 years back, we had a lady pilot who went solo. I'd invited her, but she hasn't come today. Yeah, so it's a very universal thing now. Ladies can do well as good as anyone else. So no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got two questions.
Okay.
First one is, does one need a flying pilot license for flying microlights or hang gliders?
Okay, that's straightforward. For flying the powered hang glider, which depend on weight shift, there has been a relaxation which we are trying very hard not to lose, where you don't need a proper flying license, but anyone who is authorized by the DGCA, he can issue a letter saying, I know this chap, he knows how to fly, that's enough. So I was one of the first instructors to get that letter, and I have certified many people.
How do you prove it to me?
Beg your pardon?
How do you prove it to me?
I give it to them because
Logbooks.
yeah, they have their own yardstick, you know.
The second question is, have you had any accidents on this house?
Well, all of us at the learning stage, we do go through some incidents, but because of the low speed of these aircraft, we haven't had any fatal accidents or anything. We all have had
That's why I'm standing
a
here.
fair share. That's why I'm standing here. He knows it. Probably the one I can share is we were coming back from Mysore, and then over Mathur, the engine conked out. So it was all silent and peaceful, but it was gliding. So I asked my passenger, do you see any electrical lines? Because that's the thing that can really kill you, if you hit a high tension wire. And he says, I can't see. He said, I can't see. And he said, okay, we'll go for that plowed field, which looked barren. There was nothing growing on it. So I did a circle and came into land. So when I was about 50 feet above, I saw it was plowed across my line of approach, not along the furrows, but against the line of approach. But you can't do anything, you have to just lump it. So I went in and landed in between the furrows, and I stopped in about 20 feet. It came over. And there's hardly any damage except one of the front tubes got bent. And there was a farmer working there who kind of fallen here. So we landed, and then I asked my passenger, are you okay? I said, okay, I'm okay. So we got down, and main thing was we had a signal. At that time, signal was a major issue. Fortunately, his phone had the signal, and we could call our staff. But it took us about 3 to 4 hours to unpack the wing and carry it and all that. But about 1,000 villagers turned up from the and they said, oh, we are all good people here, we won't trouble you. Would you like a cup of tea and things like that? So it was a nice experience finally. Yeah, it's just things like that. And then, okay, why did the engine shut off? Well, that's the question we ask ourselves. It's finally the type of fuel we use can be, some adulteration is there in fuels, so you can get air locks and vapor locks. So that's one of the issues, But life goes on. Every time we have something, we say, okay, forget it, get back and fly. So that keeps us going.
Last question. Was the flying what helped you map Bangalore? Your A to Z book was our lifeline when we first came to Bangalore.
Thank you, ma'am.
It was a 20 rupee one, and without that we could, GPS was not there at that time. And we would keep turning the pages back and turn and everything. That was a real lifeline. Thank you.
Well, that was actually a slightly different project. What we got is whole of Bangalore at that stage. We got it mapped by the Air Force, and we got thousands of photographs. And then we had a battery of draftsmen who copied all those figures and made that on the style of London A to Z. Those of you who are old-timers, before Google came to this.
Yes.
London A to Z. So made something like Bangalore A to Z. Thank you.
What is the range of the flight that the maximum you single solo without refueling to?
That depends on the size of the fuel tank.
But to Bangalore, you flew from Bangalore?
From Jaipur we went to Hassan,
Okay.
and then we refueled at Hassan and then to Bangalore. So up to about 200 kilometers is a reasonable range.
How high it can go?
Height.
Height, we can go up to about 7,000-8,000 feet. But it gets very cold, so that is the main restriction. You have to put thick jackets and go.
Open.
Open, yes.
But you have a good instrumentation to control the height and then speed and all those things.
Very preliminary, we don't need any instruments. For the height, we have an altimeter and a compass. But once the GPS came, it made our life very easy. So we put it on the GPS, and then we can navigate. So navigation is one thing where we didn't have too many problems. But that's also not strictly true. In my first solo flight from here to Bangalore Aerospace in Hosur, my first flight, and then I found that once I was up in the sky, I could see the GPS because of the sunlight. So the sunlight falls at it and you don't know where you're going. So that time, what I had to do was do a full circle. And at some point you'll say, okay, I was pointing like that. And I'll say, okay, I'm going to fly in that direction and continue. So these are the type of incidents you have to deal with, and it helps you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
him to fly a microlite first. His great grandfather or grandfather built the Eiffel Tower, and his daughter is Kalki.
In fact, when I was looking for a photograph of Joel, it was her idea. I said, put Joel's photo. And then I couldn't find anything on the internet. But it came. Father of then I had to blank out the Kalki.
Okay, I think Mr. Radhakrishnan has a gift for Shakunta and.
Yeah, because of Madam, she used to be there with us for every flight. She used to
I
support
forgot
us.
this 20 years ago.
Always will be there with us. So I wanted to give small memento from Shah to Madam.
What is it? That who made it?
My cousin made it.
Who made
My
it?
cousin made it.
Cousin made it.
What is your favorite? Bamboo. And one more, I request Raglar and Joshi.
These people think I have another coffee.
So we are the first batch of 5 students from you. And he is the first student and the second student. Joshi is the third student. One group photo of them and you will be sharing.
Okay, group photo, group photo.
Mr. Jawad, do you also fly?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Also a student?
I'm close with Dr. Pai, but he stopped flying with me. Actually, like this. He's afraid of. He flies very safe. I fly very dangerous.
No, it's a problem of weight.
Different styles.
It's a paint.
That time I was very heavy, he was heavy
Madam,
too,
can you go again?
so it was tough to fly.
Please.
Madam also enjoyed
All the years of
Thank you, Pralad, for the first flying
solo
and
flight.
one who continues to fly.
Continues to fly.
Unexpected.